This newly found veneration that a select segment has for the words of the intelligence agencies, the NSA, the FBI, the CIA, is quite astounding and shocking. Considering if you do some research and contextualize and dissect the own words, actions, and even documents of these agencies, you will come to the reasonable conclusion that what they are doing is propaganda. They are not telling the truth, and it is not in the best interest of the American citizenry. But this attempt now to point to the intelligence agencies to use as a source when you are debating someone is laughable. Similar to when people say, all U.S. intelligence agencies say the same claim that Russia interfered in the 2016 election. If you do a little bit more digging, you will see that the only people that has actually observed the hard drives from the DNC is CrowdStrike, who is owned by a Ukrainian billionaire. The FBI still has not looked at the hard drives. So even on the surface, if you do a little bit of digging, instead of regurgitating the corporate media talking points, you will find out that there is deception. But let me get to the first document. I got to be more succinct in my intros, and I apologize. The first document is Operation Northwoods. It was approved by the top Pentagon chiefs, and it proposed fabricating terrorism in U.S. cities and killing innocent citizens to trick the public into supporting a war against Cuba in the early 1960s. The operation even proposed blowing up a U.S. ship and hijacking planes as a false pretext for war. The Operation Northwoods documents were approved in writing by the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and the Joint Chiefs of Staff were the top generals of each branch of the U.S. Armed Forces, so the top general of the Air Force, Army, Navy, etc., etc. And it was submitted to the Secretary of Defense at the time, Robert McNamara. The only reason they weren't implemented is that the Kennedy administration rejected the plans. Basically, everyone approved it until it came on the president's desk, and he rejected it. That is one of the reasons, along with the Bay of Pigs, that he started to really lose faith in the intelligence agencies. Below are key passages quoted directly from the Operation Northwoods documents. This is their own words. This isn't my words. This is their own documents. A series of well-coordinated incidents will be planned to take place in and around Guantanamo to give genuine appearance of being done by hostile Cuban forces. A. Incidents to establish a credible attack. 1. Start rumors many use clandestine radio. 2. Land friendly Cubans in uniform over the fence to stage an attack on the base. 3. Capture Cuban friendly spontaneous inside the base. 4. Start riots near the main gate. 5. Blow up ammunition inside the base. Start fires. 6. Board aircraft on base. Sabotage. 7. Lob mortar shells from outside of base into base. 8. Capture assault teams approaching from the sea or vicinity of Guantanamo Bay. 9. Capture militia groups which storms base. 10. Sabotage ships in harbor, large fires. 11. Sink ship near harbor entrance. Conduct funeral for mock victim. So basically, they wanted to attack a U.S. base around Guantanamo Bay and then blame it on the Cubans. That's what the U.S. does quite a bit. They want to galvanize the public into a war based upon a false pretext. And the funny part is, they even admit this in their own words. They say in the document, it goes further, and this is in quotes, remember the main incident. So for those of you that are unfamiliar, there was a ship called the USS Maine that really blew up due to engine problems. The boiler room heated up and the whole thing had a combustion and it exploded. But the attack was blamed on Spain under a false pretext. William Randolph Hearst and Joseph Pulitzer, who the Pulitzer Prize is ironically named after, began yellow journalism. In any journalist class, you will learn about this. This is sort of the basis today for yellow journalism. But in their own documents, it says, remember the Maine incident could be arranged. We could blow up a U.S. ship in Guantanamo Bay and blame Cuba. Casualty lists in U.S. newspapers would cause a helpful wave of national indigestion. So they do this a lot. They do this to Bill Cosby, to Michael Jackson, to Donald Trump. The mainstream media automatically says they are guilty. They don't give you evidence. They don't give you facts. They don't give you experts from the witnesses in the Cosby trial. They want to make them guilty in the court of public opinion because most people are emotional thinkers. They are not four-dimensional thinkers. They simply regurgitate what the media tells them. Using that same false pretext, they wanted to have a U.S. ship blow up the base in Guantanamo Bay. And then they wanted the newspapers to publish a list of the U.S. victims. Because most people are emotional bitches. Even the dudes these days are acting like emotional bitches. We could develop a communist Cuban terror campaign in the Miami area, in other Florida cities, and even in Washington. Use of Mi-6 type aircraft by U.S. pistols could provide additional provocation. Harassment of civil air attacks on surface shipping and destruction of U.S. military drone aircraft by Mi-6 type planes would be useful as complementary actions. Reasonable copies of the Mi-6 could be produced from U.S. resources in about 3 months. Hijacking attempts against civilians, civil air, and surface craft should appear to continue as harassing measures condoned by the government of Cuba. It is possible to create an incident which will demonstrate convincingly that a Cuban aircraft has attacked and shot down a chartered civil aircraft en route from the United States. The destination would be chosen only to cause the flight plane to cross Cuba. The passengers could be a group of college students off on a holiday. An aircraft at Elgin AFB would be painted and numbered as an exact duplicate for a civil registered aircraft belonging to a CIA proprietary organization in the Miami area. At the designated time, the duplicate would be substituted for the actual civil aircraft and would be loaded with select passengers, all boarded under carefully prepared aliases. The actual aircraft would be converted to a drone. The drone aircraft and the actual aircraft would be scheduled to allow a renderous south of Florida. From the renderous point, the passenger-carrying aircraft will be descended to minimum altitude and go directly into an auxiliary field at AFB, where arrangements will be made to evacuate the passengers and return the aircraft to its original status. The drone aircraft, meanwhile, will continue to fly the same flight plan. When over Cuba, the drone will be transmitting on the international distress frequency a Mayday message stating he is under attack by Cuban Mi-6 aircraft. The transmission will be interrupted by the destruction of the aircraft, which will be triggered by the radio signal. Other possible options: blow up a jet, have the parts in the ocean, and blame Cuba. See, we can even kill U.S. citizens. It doesn't matter as long as we get our war with Cuba. Attack a U.S. military base. Blow it up. When NASA was launching John Glenn into space, if something wrong happened, blame Cuba. Manufacture evidence. This went all the way to JFK's desk, who threw the plan out and fired the head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. And you know what happened to Kennedy? We got more documents that talk about that, but we'll get into that another time. basically to surmise the United States Joint Chiefs of Staff, the head generals of each branch of the military, approved a plan that wanted to galvanize the public, who is emotional, into a war with Cuba by literally killing U.S. citizens, by fake killing U.S. citizens, by knocking down a drone and blaming it on Cuba, by storming Guantanamo Bay with militants, but basically cause an attack. So problem, reaction by the public, and solution. That's all I have to say. Problem, reaction, solution. The mainstream media does this today. So this newly found veneration of the intelligence agencies is quite comical, if you ask me. In the next video, we will get into MK Ultra, which in my opinion is a lot more sinister, simply because it was actually put into place. Notice this was approved all the way till Kennedy, who fired the head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and we all know what happened to him.